Hello guys, it's Chloe with the Ingersoll Creative Arts Center, back again for another summer as an art student. Last year we did 2 speed paintings and I thought that I'd keep up with the tradition. So today I'll be filming another speed painting of a just basic acrylic painting, not really using any reference. I'm doing this painting at the Ingersoll Creative Arts Center in Victoria Park, and I am joined by our painters group, which meets every Thursday from 10 until 3 p.m. So, feel free to grab a cup of coffee, sit down, get comfy, grab some paint, and you can come and paint along with me. For this painting, I'll be using a regular store-bought canvas. I think this one's from the dollar store, so you won't need anything expensive. And we will be using acrylic paints. You can use whatever ones you like, but for this painting, I will be using the Da Vinci acrylics in titanium white, burnt umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, hydroquinone red, and cadmium yellow. Please remember when working with cadmium to not eat near your desk and to make sure that you're keeping your hands clean of the cadmium as it is carcinogenic. I will also be using the Liquitex Acrylic Basics in fluorescent orange as my underpainting. So, I'll be honest, when I started this painting, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I've been going through a little bit of art block, and I've been having a lot of trouble figuring out what I've wanted to paint recently, and honestly, I'm a little bit out of practice, and I've haven't felt as inspired. So for this painting, I took it upon myself not to worry about the subject matter that I was painting, but to really just paint what I want and what felt good in that moment. So when I started this, I really had no plans for what I really wanted to do. So I started off with an underpainting of fluorescent orange. I find that my main problem with getting started in painting is that I fear the blank page. I think the white of a canvas before any paint is put on it is quite intimidating, and in order to combat this, I use this technique of underpainting, which I learned from my high school art teacher, Mrs. Danielle Gardner, who taught me this in her grade 10 art class. So I always use it because it makes it so much easier to get started, and it makes the canvas look so much more inviting to paint on. After I've completed my orange underpainting, I start by putting down my sketch. Because I really didn't know what I wanted to paint, I took to my greatest tool and my handiest source of inspiration, Pinterest, to find some images that I wanted to paint. At first I thought that I wanted to do a figure painting or a landscape, but then I decided that I wanted to do more of a scenic, maybe a little bit more of a narrative to it. So I chose to do a landscape in this wide-angled landscape composition, but include a mysterious figure in the mid-ground. So that is what I did. I put away my Pinterest and opened up my sketchbook and got out a couple thumbnails and started jotting down some ideas, and I settled on a composition that I really liked. So right now I just put in the sketch using a paintbrush and some watered down burnt umber, and I got to work. And then I kind of began blocking in my colors. The handy thing about using this orange is that it really helped me narrow down my color palette really quickly. I chose to do a really saturated and aesthetically pleasing color palette and really focus more on the colors of this painting rather than the actual subject matter. So it's far more stylized and far more colorful than I've done. Most of my work is normally in a more naturalistic palette. Once I have my sketch down and I've blocked in kind of where I think I want my dark areas to be and where I think I want my light areas to be, I get to work. The reason I chose to use a ultramarine blue instead of a more warmer tone of blue is because I really wanted there to actually be some contrast between the warms and the cools of this painting. In order for the color palette to seem saturated, I wanted the oranges and the yellows and the reds and even the purples to have a warmish hue to give it this lovely golden hour glow. And in order to contrast that and to add some more balance and really push back the foreground and give it some more interest, I decided to use this cooler blue mixed with white to really balance it out, to make it seem like the sun is setting and that, I don't know, the day is coming to an end and this woman is either about to swim off into the sunset or return back to shore. And once I finished laying down that cool blue of the water, I start heading into the clouds and I start blocking in the cloud colors. Now, according to the rules we learn about atmospheric perspective and the way warm and cool colors recede or push forward in a painting, it would tell me that I should be placing my warm colors in the foreground and my cooler colors like that blue in the background. However, to convey the fact that the sun is setting and it's kind of washing everything in this beautiful yellow gold glow, I've chosen to reverse this rule and made it so that the clouds that are closest to the sun are going to be lighter but warmer in comparison to what maybe the real atmospheric perspective might have looked like. So the warm oranges will be right near where the sun is most bright, and it will go cooler and fade into a red and then a purple and a warm purple or magenta in the foreground, where those clouds are closest to our viewer. And right here, I'm actually reinstating that really bright white. This will end up being the only spot that I'll have that bright titanium white. And I'm doing it just to make sure that that is the lightest area and it's where our eye goes to first as it leads through the canvas. So I only want to use that white in little reserved spots. And my next step in this process is to start adding in the colors around the canvas into the reflective surface of the ocean water. So I'm taking the colors that I've already used in the rest of the piece, those bright yellows, those pinks, those peachy oranges, those reds, and those purples, and I'm placing them throughout the water to give the illusion of the sun reflecting off. Obviously, with the lightest colors getting speckled closest to the middle where the sun is, and the darker colors on the outside where those darker clouds are going to be reflected in the water. I continue to work this piece. I add in some darks, I add in some lights in that background, and I even go ahead and I add the little hint of my transparent ultramarine blue into the hair to give it a really cool tone in the back to really emphasize the shadow at the back of our figure's head. And I add a little bit of highlight on the front of her face and her forehead to give her some dimension as well. But there comes a point in every painting, and I find that I struggle with this, that makes you as an artist decide when you want to stop. Now, I, like a lot of people, could work this painting until I think it is perfect, but at the end of the day, I would continue to work on this forever. I would never be able to reach that point. So there comes a time where, as an artist, we have to learn how to stop and when to let go. And I got that memo from the other painters who were helping me. Our painter group was sitting out beside me and we were all chatting while I was talking, and they came over and looked and said that honestly that they thought it was looking really good and that I could probably leave it at that. So I took their advice and I did. So I stopped fiddling with it. I fiddled with it for maybe a couple more seconds, adding in some more details in the background and some more interest to those shadows. And then I decided that it was looking pretty good. Now, this painting isn't perfect. but I am proud of it, and even if it's not the most technically advanced or the most deep or meaningful on its subject matter, I did have a lot of fun painting it, and I think that is the most important part of making art. Here is the final painting signed at the bottom. I'm sure if anybody would like to come and see it, it will be on display in the Creative Arts Center, tucked away somewhere in a corner. But feel free to stop by, and if you ever have an interest in joining our painters group, feel free to stop by Thursdays in the late morning to mid-afternoon, and come and say hi and see what we're working on. Thanks so much. Have a great day. This is Chloe, the summer student at the Creative Arts Center, signing off. Bye-bye.